Dan, how we doing this week?
I'm doing really good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. We sat here and we watched Jerod Mayo. I'm trying to remember what you played against Jerod, correct?
Yeah, I played against Jerod. He gave me one of the hardest hits I've ever taken on a touchdown pass to Pierre Garçon, but he cut me in half one time for sure.
Okay, so I was going to ask you what you remember about him, but that's got to be top of mind, I would imagine.
Yeah. He came through as a linebacker, obviously, and right when I threw it, hit me square in the middle of my chest. This is when you could hit quarterbacks back in the day, and lit me up pretty good. But I remember him, super smart player, kind of knew exactly what you were going to do. Very very difficult to fool. So and then just kind of seeing his development and growth and where he's gotten to today, super excited for him.
So what do you think of the hire?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I love the hire. I don't know that much about Jerod other than kind of the reports you hear from outside of the building. You've heard this for a couple years that he was this head coach in waiting. So I think, by himself, you sit there and has a lot of the signs of a good head coach, a good leader. They're hiring from within, so he's got to be able to shake the way that things have gone, and kind of the way that he learned, or at least the bad parts of it, or the parts that didn't necessarily translate into wins. He's going to be challenged with that. We all know that so many people from that building have gone and tried to replicate that stuff unsuccessfully. And so I do like hearing him say, I'm not trying to be Bill Belichick. I'm trying to change some things, repair relationships. So that's encouraging. It's going to happen. It has to happen. So there's a part of me that sits there and says, you like it because of everything you hear about Jerod. And then there's a small part of me that says, oh man, there still is the in-house, the way that we do things type of, I guess, hesitation. Now, Pittsburgh did that with Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin as well, and it's worked out very well. So I'm not saying it's going to not work out, but there is part of that we just have to kind of pay attention to.
Dan, how do you feel about giving first-time head coaches personnel power? And I know that's kind of a broad question, but for someone like Jerod Mayo, how much say do you think he should have in the players that they get in free agency, in the draft, and, who stays on the team and who's cut?
I mean, you obviously want everybody to collaborate. It's really difficult to coach players that you don't believe fit into what you want, both on and off the field. But there's also, multiple eyes on what the vision and vantage point needs to be are important. So, how much power it's 30% to 70% as far as, I always believe that I never understand when teams go, well, we're just giving full power to the head coach. That's one set of eyes. That's one way of thinking. And that very rarely works out. And so I always think that, hey, coach, what type of players do you like? And what type of players do we need for us to excel? What are we missing? Where are our holes? And you try to go find that and build the football team as a personnel and or general manager character or placeholder rather than, hey, just head coach, you do everything. So you definitely want his viewpoint and input, but I don't think there's a lot of examples in the NFL of head coach has full power and all works out.
Dan, do you think this is a bad year for a team, maybe not like the Patriots, but any team to sort of rush into hiring somebody considering all of the names that are out there right now?
I think it's the opposite. I think you got to move. I think you got to be the team that's going to jump. Eventually someone's going to make the decision to go hire a Bill Belichick or a Vrabel or a Ben Johnson. And you're going to sit there going, that's the guy we wanted. And so I think while the pool is deep, you if you feel that you've identified hey, that's the one or the two that we need. There's two guys that we really think are going to excel in our organization. I don't think you can hang around and just wait. And so at some point, these guys are going to get scooped up, and you're all of a sudden going to be sitting there going, what happens if this week we have almost a repeat of last week, but on the flip side of hirings rather than retirings? In the matter of 36 hours, it was Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, and Bill Belichick. What happens if Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick could get hired in the next 24 hours. And then all of a sudden Ben Johnson's going to go wherever he wants. And then Harbaugh, and then it's we we lost out on the four guys that we thought were difference makers.
Dan, you said a while ago that you heard Bill Belichick already had his destination picked out. I'd say enough time has passed. Can you tell us what that destination is now?
I'm not going to tell you what that destination was that I heard. No, but it is one of the teams that is vacant.
Okay, that's what I was just going to ask. So
now.
it's one of the teams that we could connect some dots on. Okay, where do you think Bill should go?
So I think Coach Belichick needs to go to a place that he can just coach ball and no longer have a significant say in personnel. So, like, where do I think is the best place that he can go win? Like, okay, let's have the conversation about Atlanta. He goes to Atlanta. The next part of that is who's the quarterback and who does he want as the quarterback, or does that matter? And because I'm sure you're trying to ask him that, who's the quarterback? I don't think Baker's leaving Tampa. Okay, I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to end up leaving Minnesota. Does he want Justin Fields? Does he think that he can go win a bunch of games with Justin Fields? If he wins, or if he goes gets Justin Fields, I think they can win a lot of games. Who's the offensive coordinator? Is he going to bring Bill O'Brien for Justin Fields? Is it going to be Josh McDaniels? Is it going to be Greg Roman? So I think Atlanta's intriguing, but you have to have that question get answered. Washington. I think Washington is super talented on offense. You obviously have the second pick of the NFL draft. Does Coach Belichick want one of those two young quarterbacks? And I think he's a good enough coach that he can fix some of the defensive deficiencies. Not all of them. I think those are the two places that make the most sense to me right now. Now, Philly, Dallas, I think I read that Julian Edelman said Coach Belichick respects people that do their job at a very high level, and how he beat New England, obviously. And so I could absolutely see Philadelphia being a place where if it came open, he would do well there.
So if you are Jerod Mayo and you have the latitude to make the decision on the next offensive coordinator for the Patriots, who would you bring in for this place that the team is in right now? And also, will you be interviewing for any positions on the Patriots staff? Don't laugh. He might be.
If they called me to interview for a place on their staff, I would go and interview, but I have not been called in regards to that.
Have you thought about calling them first?
No, I have not.
They might just see you on TV and they're like, he's getting his hair washed for free there. We don't know if we can offer that.
I don't get it for free. I have to still work for it.
That's true.
The names that I would call, I think that I would definitely find someone from the McShanahan tree, the Kyle, Shanahan, Sean McVay tree. Liam Cohen would be probably the first name I call, who's the offensive coordinator at the University of Kentucky. Second name I would call would be Clint Kubiak, who's Gary Kubiak's son, who I believe is in San Francisco as their pass game guy. Third name I would call would be Brian Griese, longtime NFL starting quarterback, who is the quarterback's coach in San Francisco. If you look at the final 8 teams this year, where football is going in the NFL, 6 of the 8 teams major in some form of that foundational offense. Those would be the first 3 names.
Okay, he's Dan Orlovsky. He joins us each and every Wednesday here on Jones and Mego with Arcand. We got one more week, Dan. We will break down, I'm sure, at some point, the NFL's postseason. Maybe we'll get some answers on where Bill Belichick is heading. Check out Dan on Twitter at Dan Orlovsky7, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, guys.